Good morning, family. Caro. It is Saturday, February 7th, 2026, and I am your happy host of Ascending. I am April R. Silver. You are watching Ascending, and I'm so glad that you are returning to this show. We are on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel and also on um, his Twitter or X. So thank you for watching. We are here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Every Saturday, we are doing Ascending. And for those who are returning, welcome back. For those who are new, welcome. And we hope to see you all the other Saturdays. So, as we normally do, family, tell us from where you are ascending in the live chat right now, totally right now. Type in where you are ascending. We are so used to and spoiled by having people watching from all over the United States and all over the globe. So tell us from where you are ascending because we have an amazing show. And I want to give you uh, a little bit of peek before we go into our regular segments. I want to give you a peek about what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be talking about lupus and Black women and the truth about lupus, sorry, and why Black women in particular are disproportionately affected by this disease. We have someone who is a lupus advocate. We have someone who is a poet and a singer and a motivational speaker and does a lot of work. And her name is Chanel Gabriel. If you are listening and not watching, there's a beautiful picture of this dynamic woman on the screen, Chanel Gabriel, and she's going to give us some inside information about what's going on with this and what we should know about, and some insight as someone who lives with lupus. So just buckle up and get ready. While we also get ready for that, I want to give a shout out to the Marc Lamont Hill official team. Thank you so much. Y'all are doing amazing work. And my team, yay, my team, Drake, Aaron, Kevin, Sandy, and all of our volunteers. Thank you so much for holding us down. We're episode 50. That's a big deal. Thank you so much, everybody who's listening and watching live or watching later. We are here every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern live, but you can always watch us later. So, what I want to do today before we get into the segment is to remind you because we're all about Black thought, Black institutions, Black love, Black family, but especially books. So, we want to remind you, like we do every week, to support Black owned bookstores such as Uncle Bobby's. The owner of this channel, Marc Lamont Hill, is a bookstore owner. Uncle Bobby's Coffee and Books in the great city of Philadelphia. Get thee to Uncle Bobby's if you can't get to Philadelphia to visit this amazing store. And I've been there several times. Wherever I am, I make my way at some point whenever I'm in Philadelphia to the store. If you can't get to the store, go to UncleBobby's.com. UncleBobby's.com. We do this every week because we want you to support Black institutions, Black bookstores, Marc Lamont Hill, that show. And we are now also heading up more bookstores, right? That we want to, because I'm a literary person, I'm a writer, I'm an editor. I love words. I love the power of words and more importantly, Black thought. So we are highlighting a special shout out 44th and 3rd Bookseller. That is actually the name of a Black owned bookstore in Atlanta. 44th and 3rd Bookseller. It's located again in Atlanta, Georgia. The website is likely in the chat. The website is on the screen, which is 44th and 3rd bookseller.com. That's the website if you're listening and not watching. And the IG is 44th and 3rd Bookseller. Please support that institution, that Black owned bookstore established in 2017. So they are 9 years in. Shout out to them. Lots of sacrifices, I'm sure, but great events. Great events. I've not yet been, I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm using my platform to shout them out. So I want to go now to Black Media Shout Out. Don Lemon, like if you're watching the news and if you're a regular watcher or Marc Lamont Hill Night School or his Patreon or anything of the sort, then you're familiar with, I'm sure, Don Lemon. Well, way before it was mentioned here, but the Don Lemon Show on YouTube is the Black Media shout out for this week. This is where we remind you or introduce you to those Black media spaces that focus on Black news, Black culture, people who are standing up against the regime, of which we applaud so loudly as often as we can. So we want to remind you that this is the feature for the day. For Black Media Shout Out, go to donlemon.com to learn more about the journalist, his run-in with his arrest recently, just a couple of days ago. We thank him for the advocacy work, the activism. Well, I don't know if you would call it activism. He clearly said that he's a journalist and he wasn't trying to protest there against ICE and was arrested. But follow that if you aren't already. We stand with him and everybody else who's given the middle finger to the regime that we are currently living under. Speaking of independent Black media movements and the donlemon.com, we want to remind you to support this Black media movement that Marc is a part of, this independent Black media movement. You can support this work here at Ascending and everything that Marc does on his social and on YouTube by actually subscribing here, yes, on YouTube, but also becoming a member of his Patreon. His Patreon is patreon.com/Marc Lamont Hill official. And where are we? Here, there's a QR code that you can scan. There's me telling you out loud, patreon.com/Marc Lamont Hill official on Patreon. Become a member, tell your people, and let's support independent work institutions, particularly Black media. That's really important. We can't do this without your views, without you telling people, without you giving whatever dollar amount that you can, $5 or more, or just sharing the news and subscribing. That's super, super important, family. So that's your weekly reminder. I also want to shift a little bit into some sad news in a way. The the in memoriam is a segment that we do as well. And some of you may very well know that Woodie King Jr., lovingly known as the godfather of Black theater, passed away just a couple of days ago. I need to, there's just not enough words to say how important Woodie King Jr. I want to say is the spirit of Woodie King Jr. as the premier or a premier advocate for Black artists, as specifically as it relates to Black theater, and what he did in terms of building institutions and making sure that our stories and Black actors and Black theater, and not just the actors on stage, but the whole guild of people behind the stage as well. The way he uplifted this particular art form and put his money where his mouth was and just built institutions. And so much of our Black art and theater comes from him embracing those artists, those playwrights. And so he passed away just a couple of days ago. We'll be sharing more information about the memorials and all those things, but you can totally type in anywhere in any of your search browsers, Woodie King Jr., Woodie, and we'll find an abundance of information about his life and videos and the plays that he stood behind and the plays that he produced, and how he stands for Black playwrights. So that's a great, I don't want to say loss, but in the physical realm, we lost Woodie King. The essence and the spirit and what he stood for and the fulfillment of his destiny, we are impacted by that, whether we know it or not. If you love the arts and you love Black theater in particular, then there's homage that needs to be paid to this man and the institution that he built. And as I understand it, I just learned his son, Michael King, is a fellow Howard University Bison. So bigger than all of that, we just want to extend our condolences, our sympathies to the entire family, to the Black theater world. May we just never forget his work. May we always call his name, and may we honor it by holding up Black theater institutions. That's easy enough for us to do amongst the living. So, family, I just wanted to say that. And also, wait, I want to shout out someone who I logged in like 7 o'clock this morning, right? And I want to shout out that we have a new member to this channel. Michael Swecker. I shouldn't even try to read the names, but on the screen, we want to thank you, Michael. I hope you're watching, but I logged in super, super early this morning and saw that we had already got a notice that you had subscribed to this channel, Marc Lamont Hill Official. So I want to thank you. I want to give you a personal shout out. So thank you. Thank you. We're going to continue with the rest of our show. But first, Rolando's here. I see you in the chat. Rolando, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're always with us. We love and appreciate you. We have our regulars here. Sandy's here in the chat. We are Black Men Investing. I just want to shout, some people who are the regulars, and just thank you, everyone. I want to also say thank you to everyone who showed me love and the Silver family love and respect. And some of us actually showed up at the funeral of my father, which was last Friday, a week ago. So I just want to thank you for that. I just want to acknowledge out loud and put it out there in the atmosphere that your prayers, your condolences, your good thoughts, your checking on me and the family has and continues to work. So I just wanted to say that out loud. Because we are still celebrating the life of Eddie Silver Jr. Go back and watch that episode, by the way. So on that note, what I would like to do is bring on our guests. I would like to bring to the stage Chanel Gabriel. There you are. How are you, my friend?
Hello. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me on here. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We're the type of people who highlight um things that don't get talked about a lot, right? We're the type of people that have a particular focus on Black women, right? And again, the things that don't get talked about a lot, and we bring people to the stage who can give us insight and help us to grow in our understanding. That's why we have the show called Ascending. So when we learned about the work that you do, and not just that you're a lupus advocate, right? But that you meld that work with art. As a poet, as a singer, we were like, whoa, that's a no brainer because we have been about arts and activism for decades here through my work, Akila Work Songs, and now Ascending. So you're a perfect fit. So thank you. So thank you so much. Can we start this conversation, Chanel, with you telling us about? I understand you were diagnosed with lupus in
hmm
2004, but before
hmm
we get into the journey, can you make sure that we have a clear understanding of what lupus is?
Certainly. So, lupus, systemic lupus erythematosus, is the full formal name, SLE lupus. It's an autoimmune disease where the immune system is overactive and attacks the body itself. And so, with lupus, to paraphrase the whole thing, it's the natural part of your body is that say you get a cut in your hand, there's inflammation there, which is how your body reacts to foreign invaders. But for someone with lupus, they mistake healthy cells for foreign invaders and cause that inflammatory process. And it can affect any part of the body. It can affect everything from the brain to the heart to the lungs to the joints. So it's a very severe, it's a life-threatening disease. And, there's no cure for it currently.
That is this is going to sound weird, so bear with me, but this seems like there's some poetry and symbolism in the fact, and we could take life lessons from the things that are supposed to be working for us actually turns against us,
Mhm.
and how you explained it. That seems like there's a metaphor for life somewhere in there, and you are totally combating it, like you 10 no what is it, 12 years now you've been living with this life-threatening disease?
2004. So
Oh,
that's
2000,
that's 20.
right,
plus
I,
years.
I'm a
So
writer, not a counter. Thank you.
me too.
But in what way, like the key phrase here is life threatening. So 20 plus years you've been living with this disease.
Mhm.
Tell us about your journey.
So I was diagnosed when I was in college, and at that point in time, I was just trying to take over the world. And I actually have a poem about it. I'm not going to share it today, but it's a poem about it that talks really about my diagnosis named Vanity. And I was just trying to do amazing things. Sophomore year, I just started having a lot of different symptoms, and I guess telling you my journey can tell you some of the symptoms that people with lupus deal with. Although
Please do.
there's
Yes.
so many different symptoms, and it's kind of like a little Punnett square trying to, everyone's lupus looks different. But for me, the first thing I noticed was I began having these really bad headaches that would wake me up out of my sleep. And I didn't suffer from migraines or anything like that before. So it was really strange for me. And then it started getting really hard to physically get out of bed in the morning, like my
Mhm.
joints. I felt like a board. And it was strange, but I was trying to get on with my life, so I ignored it. I started having joint pain where I couldn't pick up my bag. And I remember asking my roommate, "Can you put my bag on my shoulder for me?" And she's like, "So that's not good." And I was like, "Girl, I ain't got time for that." And I continued moving. I started being really sensitive to cold, and my fingers would turn colors in the cold and would hurt really, really badly. And so all of these things I chalked up to just, maybe I just need to rest more. It wasn't until I lost my hair that I actually fully went to a doctor. I went to the doctor on campus and kind of mentioned a couple things, but and they just said, "Oh, here's some Sudafed," and they just kind of gave me something, thinking it was a sinus problem. But I finally went to the doctor when I lost my hair, and so I had patches gone in so many different places, and that's when we did blood work, and I found out I was severely anemic, which is another symptom that I was like, "Oh, I'm a woman. We're all anemic." And they're like, "No, it's all a part of this." I tested positive for an ANA, which is an antibody, which usually symbolizes some form of autoimmune illness. And I also, my white blood cell count was really off kilter from what it should be. And so with all of those things, I was lucky enough to be diagnosed a year after, having symptoms. But a lot of people, it takes about 6 to 7 years to get to a diagnosis. So, and that was me being diagnosed with lupus. And since then, I've had other symptoms. So it's a very it's one of those things where you don't look how you feel.
Wow. That what was the thing that turned you into an advocate though? Like you could have not decided to create awareness about it. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I became a poet. I was known as a singer for many years, and I kind of said I love this poetry world and really threw myself into it just as a poet in New York City's poetry scene, the New Rican Poets Cafe and Bowery Poetry Club, all of those spaces and places. And I wrote a poem during one of my hospitalizations, my first hospitalization ever. I had pericarditis, which is inflammation caused by lupus around my heart. And I wrote this poem just kind of trying to document what happened to my, for my diagnosis, and just kind of telling me that I need to live life. I need to enjoy life as best as I can. And one day I just said, "Okay, I'm featuring here, sharing my own work. Maybe I'll share this other poem." And I shared that poem, and so many people came up to me after saying, "I have lupus. I know someone with lupus. My aunt had lupus." And then I realized, like, wow, I need to talk about this more. And I just kept kind of looking for spaces to connect with other people that were doing that work: the Lupus Foundation of America, the Lupus Research Alliance, Lupus LA, just all these different places that were really advocating for people like me. And from that, I just, felt the call to continue to say, "Hey, this is what lupus is. These are the symptoms." And also, how do we, if you have lupus, how do you live a full life with the disease?
Right, right. I'm gonna ask you very gently. So you sure you don't want to read a poem?
Oh no, I read a poem. I'll read a poem. I actually have
Okay.
a poem, just because we're talking about how lupus and advocacy. This is a poem I like to do. You want me to read it right now? I got you.
Yeah, yeah, well, hold on one second. I'm gonna ask the guys to take me off. I can't even find the button. I don't want to be coughing. Doing-
So I'll share this poem with you. And this is for anybody just battling anything, understanding how it is to just find the empowerment within the thing that you're dealing with. You think you own me. Squeezed my life in your palms, taking over my body. You think you are me, Lupus. You think because you've somehow hijacked this vessel that you're captain. You think you can get away with mutiny. But see, now I'm still me. I'm still the same beautiful butterfly floating on the breeze. I'm not scared to wrestle the wind, to battle Reynard's thorns, not afraid to this disease, to be at peace, to find ease within this disease. I miss my old life, but I'm fashioning a new one with this disease. And in no way am I saying this is easy. The way that my cells fight myself, my chest wrapped in a cage of pleurisy, the hair, crying strands of my hair, knees in the pain that sometimes interferes with my prayers. Makes it hard to find the joy in life sometimes. Make it sometimes hard to find the sun more bright, but no matter what, I will not give up my fight. And when it seems to make my day feel like night, I'll still reach for a star. And when it seems that my world is revolving left, I've chosen to force it to revolve right. And even if my limbs won't move, and even if my limbs won't move, my spirit will still dance. I'm choosing to enhance this universe with my presence in any way that I can. See, my lupus, it's not me, but it's a spark that created a flame. My disease is not me, but see, it's the source of my vanity. Lupus, you can't damage me. Because, see, my body isn't all that I possess. I'm still here. I have a reason to smile. I'm still living my life with no regrets. Thank you.
That was powerful. That was pure poetry. I
Thank you.
love it because it's there's art in there, there's symbolism in there, there's defiance in there, and I love that you made the decision to turn this thing that happened to you into something else. Like you gave it something else. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
can imagine people coming out of their shell and shedding when they hear that that kind of poetry. Yes, yes, that's pretty
Thank you.
powerful. How now that's the poetry. What about the singing? And you have 3 albums out and like you just went in on the creativity part. Tell us about that journey and how you keep it together.
Oh, definitely. So I started as a singer. I grew up in church, and grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church with my sister being the choir director, and I had no choice but to be a part of the choir. And so I've always loved music. And then I got bit by the poetry bug sometime in college where I was like, "Ooh, I love words. I love writing. I love telling stories that were extended from songs." And so I began once I graduated after I did HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam way back when.
Wait, wait,
uh,
wait, wait. You just said that really, really fast.
I did
And
HBO's Deaf Poetry Jam way back
yes,
when.
yes, yes. Congratulations. One of the HBO Deaf Poets.
Ye-
Congratulations.
Yes, and from there, I graduated college and I did it full time. I toured, and I thought it purposeful for me to make an album that kind of encompassed all of that. So my albums are primarily they're poetry, they're a little bit of music, there's some me singing. The first album, Start Something. The second album is Aim High, and that has a lot of music and poetry mixed up. And then my third album was released not last year, the year before last. I'm working on the next one. Was is a primarily poetry, and it's called Things I Need to Hear. And so I just believe that if I have this gift, I need to use it in any way that I can. And I love art and I love expression. And I believe that our stories connect us all to one another. And if I learned something from something I went through, there's somebody out there that might need to hear that too. So that's what really keeps me writing and singing and performing. And although I spent many years in education, about 3 years ago, I left my full time job working at running an arts nonprofit that does poetry. and moved into working for myself as a poet and also as a communications consultant, just around all the things that I love to do. I love talking to, so
Well,
and helping others.
I'm excited, and because that entrepreneur thing is what I understand, for sure. I can relate to leaving your day job to pursue what you know you're calling to be.
Mhm,
But let me ask you a hard question, right? So you left a corporate job, or the mainframe, right?
mhm.
And you decided to become a entrepreneur while dealing with lupus. Um, Talk about the ugly side, if you don't mind, that's a two-part question. Uh,
Mhm.
the times when you were like, you know what, if you had this experience, like, I don't know if I made the right decision, because the money ain't flowing. I want to know if you had that experience. That's number one, and then also um, talk about the whatever challenges might exist between you staying true to your creative self and also partnering with corporations who are big mammoth institutions. Because I want you to drop some names. You work with some big dogs, and I
Oh,
want to
okay.
see if there's any conflict there. So let's start with question one, if that's okay.
Sure. So question one, oh, definitely. So I think I'm a little unique. A lot of people like do the corporate thing and then go entrepreneur. I graduated college and started as an entrepreneur. And what made me go get a real job, right, was actually getting sick on the road. I was in Montana, and I had a show out there, and I was in rural Montana when I started having symptoms. And one of the other symptoms of lupus is more prone to blood clots. I actually ended up with two blood clots in my lung while I was out there. And that kind of made me have to go, okay, I need to sit down and take care of this. I'm blessed to still be here. I kept walking around with it because I didn't want to have to hunt down a hospital. A hospital is about 2 hours away from the city we were in. Like I said, this is rural. But I ended up hospitalized while I was out there, and that made me go, okay, what do I else do I love? And that's how I moved into education. But
Mhm.
all that time, I still continued to write, to perform, to share my work. And to move back into the entrepreneurial world, where you were cushioned, you were getting a check every 2 weeks, and now you're like sending invoices out, and they're like, it's net 30, so you got to wait 30 days for your check. Those things do make it really challenging, and it requires a lot of planning, a lot of focus, and navigating my disease and making sure that I'm on top of my appointments, making sure I have insurance. Health insurance was a really big thing, and that's why all this conversation around cuts to Medicaid, cuts to healthcare, and healthcare supports is so important, because it's not that people don't contribute to our society. It's just that healthcare is so expensive, and it's not just that. And so, and they need the support. So, lupus has required me to sometimes step back. I've had to, change dates and things that I had to do. But the only thing that is helpful is that I do get to shape my schedule just a little bit more, and also be very much self-motivated. The other question, I'm trying to remember the other question, the follow-up. Oh,
About working with the big dogs, like you drop some names so people can get that understanding. You've been out there.
Yeah, no, I always say this, I've been doing this about 20 years at this point. Like, I got diagnosed, and that's when I was just starting, like, to try to, like, take a bus from upstate New York. I went to Utica College in New York down the city to do poetry events. But no, I've worked with a lot of brands, NFL Draft, Pandora, that the Pandora spot I did. Shout out to Matthew Charles, who booked me for that. But it was a Black Music
Pandora,
Month.
the jury.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, the music, the
Oh, the
music,
music,
Pandora Music,
music one.
Pandora Music. So
Okay.
we did a campaign on Black Music Month for a
Yeah.
couple Junes ago, and it ended up on the mega jumbotron in Times Square. And so that was
So,
an amazing experience. But I think what has been helpful is, for me, and I mean, every poet, every artist has their medium and their audience and the way that they contribute to the world. For me, I've always been about, like, how do we connect everybody? What are the things that make us the same, as well as the things that make us different? And I think that that's been really a big part of how I write and how I contribute to some of these brands. So, There are things that I think we spend a lot of time seeing how different we are from each other. And I just don't believe we are. I don't believe, I believe systemically there are differences, but as individuals, we all want to feel loved. We all want to feel valued. We will all want to, be recognized for the work that we've contributed to the world that we live in. And how do we find those spaces and places that we agree to come together? And so I want to say that that's really the heart of a lot of the work that I do and the way that I write is, you can be of any background and understand, okay, this is what the experience is. I might be a Black woman experiencing this, but you know what this feels like in this other space. And how do we find that middle ground to also breed understanding?
Right. And with these big dogs, these big corporate entities, have you run into any of them saying to you, well, can you dial it back a little bit more, or just challenging your position and wanting you to do a little bit more, to be more conforming to whatever their marketing messages are? Have you run into any of that?
I want to say that I've had little subtle things, just like, hey, we just want to make sure you're not going to be, too Black, or
That's what I
that
was wondering. That
yeah, you want to. It's happened that way, but the interesting thing is that for me, like I said, I feel like there are definitely folk that'll tell them to go somewhere, and for me, I'm like, okay, what are the boundaries and the layers that I can push? I think that for me has been where I stand. It's like, okay, you don't want me to go that far, but here's the thing that you can't deny. And this is the spaces that, we can both understand that this is the truth, and I've been really fortunate. I mean, I don't work for anybody that I don't believe in. I don't, work
right.
with anyone I don't believe in. And I think that also helps me too.
Mhm.
The NRA hasn't reached out to me to write a poem, you know, although I respect everyone's ability to carry guns. But I've not been asked to do that. And a lot of times people also go, oh, this is somebody that's like wholesome and really, doing the right thing. I want somebody that's going to come here and do the right thing too. And so it's that. And even with corporations, I've worked with pharma as well. And I know a lot of times as a community, because of our history, we have very complicated relationships to healthcare. I do a lot of work at pharma, and I meet the people and I think that helps. I meet the people that are actually doing the work.
Right.
The CEOs are trying to get the money, but the
Right.
people that I meet on a day to
On the
day
ground.
basis
Yeah.
are trying to find treatments and cures for us, are trying to like help others know that this is an opportunity for us to grow. And that's why I do a lot of advocacy for clinical trials, especially as a Black person, because, I know the history, but I also know that there are drugs that have come out that don't work in us.
Yeah.
There's that because we don't show up to clinical trials and it's
Right.
being tried, the primary people a part of clinical trials are white men
Well,
for
see,
even for
this
disease. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
sorry.
No, 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 no. I'm excited in my chair because this is a perfect segue. We talked about excuse me, this is so timely because literally days ago there was breaking news about this disease, right? And it wasn't in reference to Black women directly. But I'd like you to explain. The FDA just released a report where there was a drug, and I forget the name of it. I know you know, that was denied in terms of usage for people with this disease. Can you break that down? Because this was literally breaking news just like 3 or 4 days ago. And guys, you can take me off because I want to let you flow with that.
Well, no. So lupus affects primarily Black women and people of color, Black women, Latinas, and Latin people, and women are 80% more likely to have lupus than men. Like 80% of the people with lupus are women. But what's interesting about the news, and it was just that AstraZeneca, well, one company was just released that they were in this final stages of a drug coming out for lupus, and it was denied. And one of the things that's really, really challenging about lupus is that no one's lupus is alike. It is really, really hard for there to have drugs and available for people living with lupus. So when I was diagnosed in 2004, there was no treatment for lupus. You were taking anti-malarials, you're taking steroids, you're taking chemo drugs, things that people take for liver transplants. Those are all the kinds of drugs and the only things that you could take, nothing that address lupus specifically. And we're in the midst of a change, and this is a change for me that I see. So many pharma companies are working, so many bio life sciences divisions are working on treatments for lupus now that weren't there. And I really hope that this continues. I mean, as sad as we are that one didn't come, there's currently only three current treatments for lupus right now. And everything doesn't work in everybody. So we need more. And these are really, really important, things to consider. And it's really important for funding and for the NIH and FDA to be involved in making sure that all of us have access to quality therapies that can really help us.
I'm so glad that you broke this down, and I love that your specific work is not just about awareness, but about clinical trials as well. And I think it's amazing and outstanding and illuminating that you were like this, 2 decades ago, there was nothing to address, this
Yeah.
this disease. So let's extend that conversation, please, if we can. What are your thoughts on the fact that more that this disease affects Black women more, Black
Hmm.
people by and large more, but within that subgroup, us as Black women? What are your thoughts
Hmm.
on that? Because that tends to be a thing when these diseases show up, we're disproportionately affected.
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna say I'm not a scientist, right? But there are definitely like a lot of studies around why it affects us more, like from Be Well to just general journal articles and different things. But we know that there are genetic factors to it. But they discovered a lupus gene, I want to say 10 years ago, and that was breakthrough, a landmark study. But lupus is an inflammatory disease, and so when we think about what causes inflammation in the body, Black women are more likely to experience environmental factors that play a role in that. We think about eco justice issues and how pollution and all those things impact our communities more than others. We also think about the stress that's more prone in our communities due to socioeconomic factors, even like racism. Can you know, increase inflammation in the body. So and also the lack of access to quality health care. These are all things that can lead to the body not doing well. And I mean, I know you were getting at it earlier, this spiritual factor. Like, what does it mean to always be pushing? Stress is a leading trigger for lupus activity. And what does
Wow.
it mean to be a community of people who have literally carried a country on their back and carried families on their backs and really, really done this at their own expense? So there's that spiritual aspect of it that you're talking about that I think of when I really grasp like the fact that Black women get lupus more than everyone else.
I'm so glad that you've made the decision to not shy away from those things. You know what I mean? Like I'm just overjoyed because, to your point, it's not just that we get lupus more, right? But the symptoms are more severe and we die more as Black women. So I'm so glad that you're ringing the alarm. It's making me think of a guest that we've had twice, Dr. Danette Bean, because she has that same understanding with regard to fibroids. So
Mm.
she's come on to talk about all of those things that you just mentioned as factors, like why we get impacted more. So we thank you for being a part of the advocates here that don't shy away from the racism, the stress, all those things that affect Black women extra, and so we
Hmm.
die more, and the symptoms are more severe. I appreciate you so much for doing this work. We need it. We need it. Um,
Thank you. And I
I
did want to just make one more note because I
yeah.
have to also say this. One of the other reasons why I advocate for clinical trials is I was on a clinical trial for a drug that came to market. And so for me, it means something specific to me to be able to be on a drug that wouldn't exist if I didn't participate. And so that's just
Wow.
something I want to bring into this space too.
No, that's important. That's important. Your you what it Before we get to your ascending moment, right? Because we're gonna have to figure out a way to end this conversation, which I don't like, but but before we get to the ascending moment, what do you have thoughts or pushback or whatever for those who are just so anti corporate medicine for good reason? for good reason, right? But what are your thoughts about people who are against the clinical trials and the that industrial complex around corporate health, if you want to call it health?
Well, listen, I mean, I'm Trinidadian. My family's from Trinidad. So I know about a bush tea. I know about, you know, I know about noni juice. I know about all the things, feral compound, all the things that we do as a people to take care of ourselves. And I do that as well. And so I think the thing that's really important to us, to me, is that I recognize that there are systems within systems, and that there are so many things that need to be challenged and so many things that need to be fixed. But I also recognize that there's so many people doing good work that want us to do well. And my mom, God rest her soul, one of the things she used to say is, God gave man wisdom to be able to help heal the nation too. And so you take Tylenol had to be on a clinical trial. Like all of those things are there. And there are a lot more systems in place that can protect you. And I say that as somebody that going through it and somebody that first said no when they asked me. And the more I learn, the more I understand the process, the more I know that one, if you're in a clinical trial at any given point in time, you can say, no, I don't want to be here. And they have to let you out. Like it's not even let you out. You can leave.
Right,
There's so
right.
many things that weren't there and they're required to, and the FDA will not approve them if they don't follow all of those steps. And I think that there's just a lot of systems been put in place to help protect that. But I firmly believe in, I've had people tell me, don't take your medication. You should just do juices and berries. And I've gotten very sick on that. Everything doesn't work for everybody.
No, that
But I
sounds
believe that working
when you
together is
said it.
important.
Yeah, juices and berries. I'm sorry. I don't know if you meant it funny, but it just sounded
I meant
crazy.
it, juices and berries, Yes, I did mean it that way. But yeah,
But
it's just you just have to bring it all together. I think it's a matter of just figuring out what works best for you, but also the goal is to be healed, not to push an agenda of this is better than this. What is going to work for you? And I think that that's the most important thing.
wow, I appreciate and respect your take, on it. I could go in, for why, but I just want to say that I do, right? Because it sounds like your thing is about, like you said, what works best for you and a balance, right? Finding a
Yeah.
balance. And I love that we always have choice. We could just opt out, as well.
Mhm.
And there's nothing that could be done about it. So that part is good. I want to give people a way to connect with you while you get prepared for your ascending moment, because I want to give you the last word. So we'll put on the screen your website, which I believe is just your first and last name,
Yep.
Chanel Gabriel, ShanelGabriel. I always do that for those who are listening and not watching. So while we do that, for your ascending moment, tell us your breakthrough moment that you'd like to leave us, parting words.
Well, I'll say this. I think what was really challenging for me, my ascending moment, and I mentioned it earlier, was literally sitting in the hospital when my first hospitalization. And for me, I was somebody that worked out. I was someone that took care of myself. I was somebody that like loved life and was just like excited about life. And I had this disease that just was going to threaten my life. And that's what everyone told me, to just prepare to be in the hospital. And I remember not thinking about my mortality, but I remember thinking to myself, what have I not done? What have I not given my all to? What are the things that matter most to me? And how do I infuse that into my life? Like whatever I could end up, if I end up in this hospital for the rest of my life, what would I have regrets for? Let me make sure I don't have any of those. And so that is for me, that moment of really sitting there is what's led me to work in spaces and places that I truly cared about, and to even move into this space where I'm doing the things that I love. And I hope other people don't wait till they're in a hospital bed to figure that out, to start asking themselves that question.
Wow, that's really that angle that you took. What have I not done? You know what I mean? What didn't I give my all to? That's a I love that. Like that. That hit me. That's awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. It's the twin of what could I do? It's the other side of what haven't I done? Man, that's dope. You're a poet. I mean, you already knew that, but I'm here. So much now. I appreciate
Thank
you. I
you.
thank you for giving a damn. We're gonna let people know about this like for a long time, over and over again. So we just thank you so much for giving a damn, for caring, and being the dope person that you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. ChanelGabriel.com is where you can find out more about this amazing woman. That was enlightening, very much so. This is why I love my job. This is why I love this work, because we get to do this kind of thing on a regular basis. Y'all know we're here every Saturday at 11 a.m. So we want to definitely close out on some reminders. We have some good news reports that we want to share with you. I can tell you right now that our next guest, next Saturday, on Valentine's Day, some people celebrate that, but we're going to be talking about Black love. We got a Black power couple coming to the show. We're going to talk about the anniversary of Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History everything. But we're going to be focusing on, what are we doing? Excuse me, Asaseya Cultural Arts Foundation. You've heard us talk about them a lot, and I want us to focus on the fact that they have a big event coming up. There we go. Asaseya Cultural Arts Foundation, based in Brooklyn, is doing a major event for 8 days, 8 straight days in Brooklyn. Excuse me. It's the third annual Rhythms and Movements Festival, and we will have Nana Osei Williams and Nana Inez Williams. They will be our guests next Saturday, talking about this very event that you see on the screen. February 20th through the 28th is the entire festival. Everything is in Brooklyn this year. This is the third annual. On the first day is the Artivist Experience, February 20th, which is next Friday at 7:30 at the Brick Ballroom. There's an evening concert featuring Kwaku Sumbri, Joel Ross, who's on vibraphone, and the performance will be followed by a talkback, a discussion by our beloved Chief Ayanda Clark, who has been on the show before. Go back and watch. I think it was episode 4, I think. But that event is happening in Brooklyn. We wanted to shout that out as a good news report. So mark your calendars if you're going to be anywhere in the area. That is the big event. Shout out to Asaseya. They will be here. The founders, 2 of the founders from Asaseya will be here next Saturday to talk about Black love, this work, and why Africa is so important and not a costume. It's not a cultural costume or anything of the sort. The other good news report, family, that we have is about Amanda Seals, who is coming to Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi. She will be there February 11th, 2026, which I believe is a Wednesday, I think. I think it's a Wednesday. Anyway, February 11th. It's a free event. So please follow Mississippi for a Just World. That is the nonprofit organization that is hosting Amanda Seals, the amazing Amanda Seals. Follow MS for Just World. MS for Just World. It is our pleasure here at Caleb Work Songs to facilitate that event that's coming up. There's still time. I don't know if it's going to be live streamed. We'll find out and let you know. But it's coming up. Follow us on social media to get more details. Follow them on social media. It might be live stream. It's a free. Shout out to Candace and everybody over there at Mississippi for Just World. And I want to remind you, speaking of speaking engagements, go ahead and let us know if you would like to bring Marc Lamont Hill to your campus, to your corporate event, to your community, because we book for Marc Lamont Hill, the owner of this channel here, Marc Lamont Hill Official. Contact Drake, super producer, not the artist. Drake at Aquila Work Songs is the email address. Definitely let us know if you'd like to bring Marc to your space. I want you to, since we're talking about spaces, go to the Ascending playlist here on this YouTube channel, Marc Lamont Hill Official. This is our 50th episode, and there's no end in sight. So definitely every Saturday you can watch us live. You can watch us later, but we're here Saturday live at 11 a.m. Eastern. So definitely go to the playlist and look at all of the amazing human beings who have come to ground zero. I want to remind you, you can find out more about me and my work. My website is akilaworksongs.com. That is my communications agency. We're going to do something special in April 2026, because we'll be 33 years old. The agency, 3 decades plus three. Excuse me. So, akilaworksongs.com is how you can find out about our work. You can find out about me on social media, April R. Silver and Akila Work Songs, everything on social media. And I think that is it for now. We will see you. Oh, wait, I have to remind you, please support this movement. I said it in the beginning, I'll say it at the end. Go to Marc Lamont Hill official on Patreon. Become a member, and we get to stay here. If you at least become a member or tell a friend, that's super, super important. So, family, we will see you next week. We will see you Saturday at 11 a.m. You can watch us live or watch us later, but we will be here ascending. We thank you. Please tell a friend. And in the meantime, stay up.